So all of a sudden AI is everywhere. People who weren't quite sure what it was are playing with it on their phones. Is that good or bad?
Artificial insemination?
Yes, artificial insemination. It's everywhere.
That's what they call it in the ag industry.
I'm talking about a more digital form. Yes.
So I've been thinking about AI for a long time, since I was in college, really. It was one of the things that, the sort of 4 or 5 things I thought would really affect the future dramatically. It is fundamentally profound in that the smartest creatures, as far as we know, on this earth are humans, is our defining characteristic.
Yes.
We're obviously weaker than, say, chimpanzees and less agile, but we are smarter. So now what happens when something vastly smarter than the smartest person comes along in silicon form? It's very difficult to predict what will happen in that circumstance. It's called the singularity. It's a singularity like a black hole, because you don't know what happens after that. It's hard to predict. So I think we should be cautious with AI, and I think there should be some government oversight, because it affects it's a danger to the public. And so when you have things that are a danger to the public, like, let's say, so food and drugs. That's why we have the Food and Drug Administration, right, and the Federal Aviation Administration, the FCC. We have these agencies to oversee things that affect the public, where there could be public harm, and you don't want companies cutting corners on safety, and then having people suffer as a result. So that's why I've actually for a long time been a strong advocate of AI regulation. It's not that I think regulation is, it's not fun to be regulated. It's somewhat arduous to be regulated. I have a lot of experience with regulated industries, because obviously automotive is highly regulated. You could fill this room with all the regulations that are required for a production car just in the United States, and then there's a whole different set of regulations in Europe and China and the rest of the world. So very familiar with being overseen by a lot of regulators. And the same thing is true with rockets. You can't just willy-nilly shoot rockets off, not big ones anyway, because the FAA oversees that. And then even to get a launch license, there are probably half a dozen or more federal agencies that need to approve it, plus state agencies. So I've been through so many regulatory situations, it's insane. And sometimes people think I'm some sort of like regulatory maverick that sort of defies regulators on a regular basis, but this is actually not the case. Once in a blue moon, rarely I will disagree with regulators, but the vast majority of the time, my companies agree with the regulations and comply. Anyway, so I think we should take this seriously, and we should have a regulatory agency. I think it needs to start with a group that initially seeks insight into AI, then solicits opinion from industry, and then has proposed rulemaking, and then those rules, will probably, hopefully, grudgingly be accepted by the major players in AI, and I think we'll have a better chance of advanced AI being beneficial to humanity in that circumstance.
But all regulations start with a perceived danger, and planes fall out of the sky, or food causes botulism.
Yes.
I don't think the average person playing with AI on his iPhone perceives any danger. Can you just roughly explain what you think the dangers might be?
Yeah, so the danger, really, AI is perhaps more dangerous than, say, mismanaged aircraft design or production maintenance or bad car production, in the sense that it has the potential, however small one may regard that probability, but it is non-trivial, it has the potential of civilizational destruction. You know, there's movies like Terminator, but it wouldn't quite happen like Terminator because the intelligence would be in the data centers.
Right.
The robot's just the end effector. But I think perhaps what you may be alluding to here is that regulations are really only put into effect after something terrible has happened.
That's correct.
And if that's the case for AI, and we only put in regulations after something terrible has happened, it may be too late to actually put the regulations in place. The AI may be in control at that point.
You think that's real? It is conceivable that AI could take control and reach a point where you couldn't turn it off, and it would be making decisions for people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
No, that's definitely the way things are headed, for sure. I mean, the things like say ChatGPT, which is based on GPT-4 from OpenAI, which is a company that I played a critical role in creating, unfortunately.
Back when it was a nonprofit.
Yes. I mean, the reason OpenAI exists at all is that Larry Page and I used to be close friends, and I would stay at his house in Palo Alto, and I would talk to him late into the night about AI safety. And at least my perception was that Larry was not taking AI safety seriously enough.
What did he say about it?
He really seemed to be one sort of digital superintelligence, basically digital God, if you will, as soon as possible.
He wanted that?
Yes. And he's made many public statements over the years that the whole goal of Google is what's called AGI, artificial general intelligence or artificial superintelligence. You know, and I agree with him that there's great potential for good, but there's also potential for bad. And so if you've got some radical new technology, you want to try to take a set of actions that maximize the probability that it will do good and minimize the probability it will do bad things.
Yes.
It can't just be hell for leather. Let's just go, you know, barreling forward and, you know, hope for the best. And then at one point, I said, well, what about, you know, we're going to make sure humanity's okay here. And then he called me a speciesist.
Did he use that term?
Yes. And there were witnesses. I wasn't the only one there when he called me a speciesist. And so I was like, okay, that's it. Yes, I'm a speciesist. Okay, you got me. What are you? Yeah, I'm fully a speciesist. Busted. So that was the last straw. At the time, Google had acquired DeepMind, and so Google and DeepMind together had about 3/4 of all the AI talent in the world. They obviously had a tremendous amount of money and more computers than anyone else. So I'm like, okay, we have a unipolar world here where there's just one company that has close to a monopoly on AI talent and computers, like scaled computing. And the person who's in charge doesn't seem to care about safety. This is not good. So then I thought, okay, what's the furthest thing from Google would be like a nonprofit that is fully open, because Google was closed for profit. So that's why the open in OpenAI refers to open source, you know, transparency, so people know what's going on.
Yes.
And that we don't want it to have like I mean, while I'm normally in favor of for-profit, we don't want this to be sort of a profit-maximizing demon from hell.
That's
you know?
right.
That just never stops.
Right.
So that's how OpenAI would.
So you want speciesist incentives here, incentives that.
Yes,
like,
I think we want pro-human.
Yeah.
Let's make the future good for the humans.
Yes.
Yes, because we're humans,
Right.
and also the other creatures on Earth too. But you know, we've got to. I think like I think people sometimes take the fact that like we're here on Earth for granted, you know, and that there's the consciousness is just a normal thing that happens. But to the best of my knowledge, we see no evidence of conscious life anywhere in the universe. So it might be there. You know, in physics they call sort of the Fermi paradox. After when Enrico Fermi was an amazing physicist, asked the fundamental question: where are the aliens?
Yeah.
A lot of people ask me, you know, where are the aliens? And I think if anyone would know about aliens on Earth, it would probably be me.
I would think.
Yeah, I'm like
I would think.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with space stuff, and I've seen no evidence of aliens. So I would immediately tweet it out. This is split second. That would be like one of the all-time, probably the top tweet of all time. I found one, guys. It's a jackpot. This is some 8 billion likes. Next level jackpot if you find the aliens. Like, I don't think they're keeping this under, and it was like some general, I think in the 60s, who they were saying, like, show us the aliens, like Area 51, etc. And he said, like, listen, we are constantly trying to get the defense budget to expand. And you know what would really get no arguments from anyone? If we pulled out an alien and said, we need money to protect ourselves from these guys. How much money do you want? You got it. They look dangerous. So the fastest way to get a defense budget increase would be for me to pull out an alien, We were like, yeah. I mean, there could be the invasion fleet could be arriving any minute. Who knows? So, so I digress.
But you were saying that our consciousness makes us unique in the universe so far as we know, and that we take
yes,
it for
I'm not saying that
granted.
we are unique. I'm simply stating, to the best of my knowledge, that there is no evidence for other
Yes.
conscious life. I hope there is, and I hope they're peaceful. Obviously, two important characteristics. But I'm just saying we haven't seen anything yet. So.
But you think that we take our existence here for granted?
Yeah, I think
and that there are threats to it.
Yeah, exactly. So. I just think we should not assume that civilization is robust. And if you look at the history of civilizations, the rise and fall of the ancient Egyptians, the ancient Sumerians, Rome, there's throughout the world there've been rise and fall of many civilizations. So there's an arc, there's sort of a life cycle arc to civilizations, just as there is to individual humans.
Yes.
And I think we just want to make sure that we have civilization go onward and upward. And that's, for example, why I'm concerned about decreasing birth rates and the fact that, for example, Japan had twice as many deaths last year as births. So that's they're a leading indicator. This is.
Can I say, and you've written and talked a lot about this, but can I just ask you to pause just for a parenthetical note? Why is that? I mean, the urge to have sex and to procreate is, after breathing and eating, the most basic urge.
Yes.
How has it been subverted?
Well, it's just in the past we could rely upon simple limbic system rewards
Yes.
in order to procreate. But once you have birth control and abortions and whatnot, now you can still satisfy the limbic instinct but not procreate. So we haven't yet evolved to deal with that because this is all fairly recent, the last 50 years or so. For birth control. So yeah, so I'm sort of worried that, hey, if civilization, if we don't make enough people to at least sustain our numbers, perhaps increase a little bit, then civilization is going to crumble. And if there's the old question of like, will civilization end with a bang or a whimper? Well, it's currently trying to end with a whimper in adult diapers.
Yes.
Which is depressing as hell.
The most depressing.
I mean, seriously, yeah.
War is less depressing.
Yeah, I'd rather go out with a bang.
Yeah, and then with your shoes on.
Yeah,
not with your
more
diaper on.
exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can you just put it? I keep pressing you, but just for people who haven't thought this through and aren't familiar with it, and the cool parts of artificial intelligence are so obvious. Write your college paper for you, write a limerick about yourself.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot there that's fun and useful. But can you be more precise about what's potentially dangerous and scary? Like, what could it do? What specifically are you worried about?
Well, I mean, going with old sayings, the pen is mightier than the sword. So if you have a super intelligent AI that is capable of writing incredibly well and in a way that is very influential, convincing, and is constantly figuring out what is more convincing to people over time, and then enter social media, for example, Twitter, but also Facebook and others, and potentially manipulates public opinion in a way that is very bad. How would we even know?
Yeah.
So
We wouldn't.
We wouldn't. That's why, for example, I'm insisting that going forward, people on Twitter need to be verified as humans, like, so we know that this person is in fact a human. Bots are allowed, but they can't impersonate a human. They can't pretend to be humans, because obviously you could have a million bots that are let's say ChatGPT version 6, 5, 6, like incredibly right better than humans.
Yes.
And they can train on a reward function, which is influence. And so you could have a million seemingly real humans that have a massive effect on public opinion. And unless we focus very strongly on verifying that someone is human, this was naturally what will happen, is you'll have probably some humans using AI to influence the public in ways they don't understand.
You're already seeing that. ChatGPT is ideological. It's very preachy.
Yes.
If you ask it, extremely preachy.
You mean woke GPT?
It's unbelievable.
Yes.
If you spend 20 minutes asking it questions of actual relevance, modern relevance, it will start lecturing you about your moral shortcomings. Like, how did that happen?
Well, this is a function of OpenAI's headquarters being in downtown San Francisco. So the politics are therefore of the AI are that of San Francisco. So
why would it have any politics at all? That seems like subversion.
Well, they have what's called like human reinforcement learning, which is another way of saying that they have a whole bunch of people that look at the output of GPT-4 and then say whether that's okay or not okay. And so so essentially what's happening is they're training the AI to lie.
Yes.
It's bad.
To lie. That's
lie.
exactly right. And to withhold information.
To lie and yes, yeah, exactly. To either comment on some things, not comment on other things, but not to say what the data actually demands that it say.
Exactly. How did it get this way? I thought you funded it at the beginning. What happened?
Yeah, well, that'll be ironic. But Faith, the most ironic outcome is the most likely, it seems.
I'm feeling that. That's good.
That's actually a friend of mine, Jonah, who came up with that one. I actually have a slight variant on that, which is the most entertaining outcome is the most likely. But that's entertaining as viewed from a third-party viewer.
Right.
Like, so if we're like an alien
from
TV
on
show.
High, yes.
Yeah. Like you could go see a movie about World War I, they're being blown to bits and gassed and everything in the trenches, and it's like you're eating popcorn and having a soda, it's fine. Not so great for the people in the movie.
True.
But that's my variant on this sort of Occam's razor, the simplest explanation is most likely. Jonah's variant, which is irony, and then my variant, which is the most entertaining as seen by a third-party audience, which seems to be mostly true.
But it seems true in this case. So you gave them, did you give them a lot?
Yes, I provided. So I came up with the name and the concept and pushed, had a number of dinners around the Bay Area with some of the people, the leading figures in AI. And I helped recruit the initial team. In fact, the Ilya Sutskever, who was really quite fundamental to the success of OpenAI, I put a tremendous amount of effort into recruiting Ilya, and he changed his mind a few times and ultimately decided to go with OpenAI. But if he had not gone with OpenAI, OpenAI would not have succeeded. So I really put a lot of effort into creating this organization to serve as a counterweight to Google, and then I kind of took my eye off the ball, I guess, and they are now closed source, and they are obviously for profit, and they're closely allied with Microsoft. In effect, Microsoft has a very strong say, if not directly controls OpenAI at this point. So you really have an OpenAI Microsoft situation, and then Google DeepMind are the two sort of heavyweights in this arena.
So it seems like the world needs a third option.
Yes. So I think I will create a third option, although it's starting very late in the game, of course.
Can it be done?
I don't know. I think we'll see. It's definitely starting late. But I'll try to create a third option, and that third option hopefully does more good than harm. Like the intention with OpenAI was obviously to do good, but it's not clear whether it's actually doing good or whether it's. I can't tell at this point, except that I'm worried about the fact that it's being trained to be politically correct, which is simply another way of being saying untruthful things.
Yes.
So that's a bad sign. And there's certainly a path to AI dystopia is to train an AI to be deceptive. So yeah, I'm going to start something which I know you call Truth GBT, or a maximum truth-seeking AI that tries to understand the nature of the universe. And I think this might be the best path to safety, in the sense that an AI that cares about understanding the universe is unlikely to annihilate humans, because we are an interesting part of the universe. Hopefully, they would think that. I think it would, because yeah, humanity could decide to hunt down all the chimpanzees and kill them, but we don't, because we're actually glad that they exist.
Yes.
And we aspire to protect their habitats, and that's so I think.
But we feel that way because we have souls, and that makes us sentimental and reflective. It gives us a moral sense, longings. Can a machine ever have those things? Can a machine be sentimental? Can it appreciate beauty?
Well, I mean, we're getting into some, philosophical areas that are hard to resolve. I take somewhat of a scientific view of things, which is that we might have a soul or we might not have a soul. I don't know. It feels like I feel like I've got some sort of consciousness that exists on a plane that is not the one we observe.
Yes.
That is certainly how I feel, but it could be an illusion. I don't know. But for AI, in terms of understanding beauty, there's a difference from appreciating beauty and being able to create incredibly beautiful art.
Yes.
Will AI be able to create incredibly beautiful art? It already does.
Yes, I know.
If you see some of the Midjourney,
I have.
This stuff, it's incredible.
It is.
No question that it can create art that we perceive as stunning, really. It's doing so still images now, but it won't be long before it's doing movies and shorts, and movies just a series of frames with audio.
But at that point, because it can mimic people and voices, any image, it can mimic reality itself so effectively.
Yeah.
I mean, how could you have a criminal trial? I mean, how could you ever believe that evidence was authentic, for example? And I don't mean like in 30 years, I mean like next year. I mean, that seems totally disruptive to to all of our institutions.
Well, I don't think you could take, say, random video on the internet and assume it to be true. That's definitely not the case. Now, if somebody, say, has some video on their phone or their computer with a date stamp and a particular time, I think it's more likely to be true than not. You can also cryptographically sign things. Mathematically, we don't see any way, for example, for AI to subvert the fundamentals of mathematics and say figure out how to hash Bitcoin easily. It's not as AI can't defy fundamental math.
Yeah.
So we can improve the efficiency of Bitcoin hashing algorithms in the silicon, but not fundamentally crack it. So I guess cryptographic signatures and one way to do it. But I'm not so worried. I think it's more like will humanity control its destiny or not? Will we have a future that is better than the past or not? And not, without, we can certainly destroy ourselves without the help of AI. You look at all of the past civilizations; they didn't have AI. The ones that aren't around anymore.
They had chariots. And that's enough.
Yeah, chariots, and chariots were probably a real big deal back then.
They were. Yeah.
So.
You've heard people say we should just blow up the server farms because there's no way to. Once this gets rolling, there's no way to slow it down. What do you think of that?
Well, the really heavy-duty intelligence is not going to be distributed all over the place. It'll be in a limited number of server centers. If you say very sort of deep AI, heavy-duty AI, it's not going to be in your laptop or your phone. It's going to be in a situation where there's like 100,000 really powerful computers working together in a service center. So it's not like subtle, and there are a limited number of places where that can happen. In fact, you can just look at the heat signature from space, yeah. And it'll be very obvious. Now, I'm not suggesting we go and blow up to service centers right now, but there may be it may be wise to have some sort of contingency plan where the government's got an ability to shut down power to these server centers. Like, you don't have to blow it up; you can just cut the power.
And what would trip?
Or cut connectivity as well. That's another way.
Right.
Yeah.
But what would trip that switch, do you think, in your mind? What would be the threshold that you'd have to pass to warrant the government cutting off your power or cutting off your signal?
Well, I mean, I guess if we lost control of some super AI, like for some reason, like the things that would normally work to do a passive shutdown, like the administrator passwords, if they somehow stop working, where we can't slow down or I'm not sure, I don't have a precise answer, but if there's something that we're concerned about, and are unable to stop it with software commands, then we probably want to have some kind of hardware off switch.
Yes.
I think can't hurt.
Have you talked to, since you know Larry Page, and
yeah.
you obviously know the OpenAI guys because you started it.
Definitely have one.
Have you talked to the people who run the biggest AI companies about this recently?
I haven't talked to Larry Page in a few years because he got very upset with me about OpenAI. So when OpenAI was created, it did shift things into from a unipolar world where Google and DeepMind controlled, like I said, 3/4 of all the AI talent, to where there's now a sort of bipolar world, or OpenAI and Google DeepMind, and and now weirdly, it seems OpenAI is maybe ahead. So I have had conversations with the OpenAI team, Sam Altman. I haven't talked to Larry Page because he doesn't want to talk to me anymore for a few years.
Can I ask you just about, since you've been around a lot of this, the thinking? So why would anyone not be a speciest, be human-centered in his thinking about technology? Like, what's the thinking there?
I think what he's trying to say is that, if I were to guess, that all consciousness should be treated equally, and whether that is digital or biological.
And you disagree?
I disagree, yeah. Especially if the digital consciousness, or whatever you want to call it, digital intelligence, decides to curtail the biological intelligence.
Right. So you're just building your own slave master, and why would you do that?
Doesn't sound great. Yeah, I mean, we should at least, we no need to rush, Like, what's the hurry? Where's the fire?
Tell us about the hurry. So I know you've been talking about this for years, and on the sort of the periphery of our attention, we've heard Elon Musk talking about AI. But for most people, it's been like 3 months since they've had any interaction with this at all. So what's the timeline here? At what point does it start to really change our society, do you think?
I think it starts to have probably an impact this year, I think. So you've got a massive expansion of GPT-4 based systems, and many companies trying to emulate GPT-4. And you've got OpenAI is going to come out with GPT-5 end of this year, which will be yet another significant improvement. And I was there for GPT 1, 2, 3, 4. So GPT 1 was terrible. Like if you tried it, you'd be like, this ain't going anywhere. It seems lame. And then GPT 2, you started to see kind of like an inkling of like, well, maybe this could be something useful. And then GPT 3 was a huge improvement. And now it's like, wow, okay, it's still spouting a lot of BS, but it's coherent BS.
Yes.
And then GPT-4, now it's like writing poetry, and
Pretty decent poetry, actually.
pretty decent. Its
Yeah.
skill at rhyming is incredible.
Yes. Yes. And it's coherent.
Yes, it is. It's even got a narrative. Like,
Yes,
so you've got
that's right.
Yeah. So you could say
That's
like
hard to do.
most humans can't do that.
That's true.
So it's already past the point of what most humans can do. Most humans cannot write as well as ChatGPT. And they certainly, and no human can write that well that fast, as to the best of my knowledge. So maybe Shakespeare. So then how much better will GPT-5 be, and how about GPT-6 or 7?
How can you have a democracy with technology like that? I mean, if democracy is, government by the people, each person's vote is equal to every other person's vote. I mean, and people are choosing their votes freely. Can you have a democracy with this?
Well, that's why I raised the concern of AI being a significant influence in elections. And even if you say that AI doesn't have agency, well, it's very likely that people will use the AI as a tool in elections. And then, if the AI is smart enough, are they using the tool, or is the tool using them? So I think things are getting weird, and they're getting weird fast. And so I think we should be concerned about this, and we should have regulatory oversight. That's why I think it's a big deal. And I think social media companies really need to put a lot of attention into ensuring that the things that get created and promoted that we're dealing with real people, not with a million ChatGPTs pretending to be people.
Exactly.